Hey, everybody, welcome to Tavern Talks. And I've got here another awesome guest tonight here at the Tavern. For those new and are walking in, please make sure you hit that follow button so you can get all of the new interviews each and every week. But tonight, I have a good friend of mine. At least I think he's a good friend of mine. We'll find out later on. Maybe we'll see. Jacob. No. Brandon up there. Brandon Berg. Brandon, give us kind of an idea. What is Total Party Kill?
Wow. Okay. So jumping right into that. All right.
Heck yeah.
Well, Total Party Kill Games is
version.
This is my brainchild. We're a small publishing company. We've been around since 2009, so I've been publishing for quite some time now. And we do just projects, passion projects, things that I love, things that I want to do, things that I want to challenge myself with, right? And then on top of that, I sell tons and tons of unique dice and accessories. So in the greater Midwest, I'm kind of a known commodity at the convention scene. And then outside of that, Kickstarter and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the way tonight works is it's a 3-part series pretty much. So every 30 minutes, we're going to change up the system.
Okay.
The first 30 minutes is just finding out more about you and understanding how you kind of came into this space and whatnot. And you're just basic understanding of tabletop from the beginning, which is kind of an interesting thing to hear. After that, the dragon's going to arrive. We're going to talk monsters for 30 minutes. And then at the end of the night, we have what we call happy hour. Happy hour is the opportunity for anybody within the audience to ask any questions you'd like to, and make Brandon or myself or Jacob answer them. Usually we point it to the guest, but we will answer them as needed as well. So to kind of start us off, and this is something it gives us kind of an understanding of where you come from, is what was your first experience with tabletop gaming?
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me go backwards to the Wayback Machine here. I discovered D&D kind of late in life, and I think I appreciate it more because I discovered it later in life. But I was primed and ready for D&D when it happened. So, like 7 years old, I got my first He-Man and Skeletor figures, right? And I love that shit, right? I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the original ones kind of came with like little miniature comic books as well.
Yep.
And they were sort of graphic and violent. And they were nothing like the cartoon that you watched on Saturday mornings, right? Mm-hmm. Because that was a very sanitized version. This was more gritty, very, very based on Conan, right?
Yeah.
So that stuff was that was my first kind of like hook into the fantasy world. But, I also read a ton of fantasy books that were popular at the time. And so as I kind of got into like middle school and such, I was reading Thieves' World, Gord the Rogue. I had no idea that was actually D&D. The Magician series by Raymond Feist, Swords of Power by Fred Saberhagen, the Elric series, all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so that really primed me. Like, I loved fantasy, but I'd never played Dungeons and Dragons, right? Yeah. It just wasn't prevalent where I was growing up yet. And so, like, my mom, bless her heart, she actually, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she forced me to do and study my spelling. And so for every perfect weekly spelling test that I got a 50-cent Spider-Man comic, which again, I'm showing my age here. But, if you think about that, like, I can see the seeds of me becoming a writer and a publisher today because of something as simple as that, right?
Right.
And there was a point in time where comic books went from 50 cents to 75 cents, and my mom was like, nope, that's it, they're too expensive, we can't do this anymore. But like, that's really one of those things. Also in Iowa, my middle school English curriculum was the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yes, we read the entire thing straight through. Okay. And so I know a lot of people are like, what? That's amazing, right? So again, this stuff is like
public education was trash compared to that.
Baked into my psyche before I ever even, got to try Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And then I, somewhere around like mid 80s, one of my buddies was like, "Hey, have you ever tried Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And that was the moment my mind imploded, right? Because I was clearly primed and ready. And then, once we learned the rules, I was just like, oh my God, this game, like you can do anything, you can tell any story. Yeah. So man,
You
we were
were
off to the races after that.
primed and ready.
Yep.
What version of Dungeons and Dragons did you get into?
So the very tail end of 1E AD&D.
Okay.
And
So still in the beginning ages of Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, yeah, for sure, right? It's crazy to think all the different like versions of D&D before then, because the really crusty grognards are gonna look at me and they're like, "Oh, new guy here." They're gonna be like, "Well, you're missing like the BX and the the OD&D and all those different box set variants and stuff." Okay, you got me.
Okay, you got me.
But yeah, it's crazy. I distinctly remember using a typewriter, which was fancy at that time because it was an electronic typewriter.
Ooh.
And that's how we made our first character sheets. Okay, think about that.
That's a way to do it right there.
Yeah. And then, my first, the first modules and things that I remember playing, we played through the Dragonlance saga, first
the
edition
old
ones.
school version.
Yeah, so DL1 through probably 6 or 8 we played
I'd
through.
love to get a hold of those.
Yeah, I've got some extras yeah.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
not on channel. We'll talk.
I was I was an only child, and my parents were not terribly wealthy, and so I played with toys. I had lots of imagination, and I was just kind of played with neighborhood kids whenever I could.
Yeah.
But then when D&D hit, man, it was like I will ride my bicycle all the way across town to hang out with my friends and play D&D. Right.
There you go.
So.
Yeah. So were you? Because it's kind of the second, third question that we like to ask. So what was? It sounds like we kind of understand what the primer was. Like, what was the reason you just got stuck to this game? Like,
well, I think truly I had a great imagination, even as a child, right? Because I think being an only kid, that really helped, right? And did a lot of reading.
A lot of time on our hands.
But the ability for infinite imagination, infinite storytelling, that to me, even as a kid, not even really appreciating storytelling, right? That there was something there, and I was hooked. And, once I had D&D, I played way less video games, no toys. That was it. That's all I cared about, and really hasn't changed much since. Yeah. So I can't tell you what the spark truly was, but I was a powder keg just waiting for that spark to hit. So
and they just took off. And that's crazy. So I'm sure you've had life between.
Yeah, of course.
We don't just get the opportunity to come right out of high school and then go straight into writing.
I will tell you the story of how that happened too, if you like.
Yeah, we can do that in just a second.
Let's go.
Sure.
Because I want to know one thing about it is how long did it take you from starting to play Dungeons and Dragons before you stepped on the other side of the screen and started running your games?
Not very long.
I figured as much.
And the reason for that is I think because I kind of absorbed all the rules very quickly.
Okay.
And the other thing was that I'm notoriously famous for being an atrocious dice roller. You do not want to play a game with me as one of your party members. I am awful, right?
Even in Call of Cthulhu, when you got to roll low.
Oh yeah, that's why I don't play Call of Cthulhu.
Or the dice just don't understand.
No, dice hate me. They absolutely hate me, which is just one of those grand ironies in life, right?
Right.
But it became one of those stories or those things where I was like, okay, guys, I'm just gonna roll. I'm gonna be the game master. I'm gonna tell the story, right? And it was murder, death, mayhem all day long. When I sat on the other side of the screen, I ended up starting to roll my dice in front of my players because they couldn't even believe how often I would be rolling 20s and just awful things done to the players. So that kind of became a gag. Right, and kind of led to the name Total Party Kill Games. right? Because I was known as such a brutal game master, but it's just the karmic chance of dice, right? They hate me as a player, they loved me as a game master. So
There you
maybe that was
go.
fate nudging me in one direction. Not
Yeah.
sure. But yeah. And then like, I played D&D all the way through um the kind of the early 2000s,
Okay.
and that was really when professionally there was something that was just starting to click. So at that point, I had been working on the. Are we fans of Rifts here at all by any chance?
I've seen it. I've never played.
Fantastic setting, abysmal rules. Okay,
Yeah.
and Kevin Symbieta, if you're watching this, okay. Um,
I will say though the video game was no different in my opinion.
oh really?
Interesting setting,
Mm,
terrible game.
that
Like,
tracks. Yeah. But yeah, I was working on the Rifts D20 project. It was like a fan sourced, conversion.
mhm.
So the D20 system had really just kind of taken off in the big boom, and everything was D20. Everybody was doing something D20, right? And so I was really kind of getting into the mechanics and loving all that stuff, and I'd been like just absorbed into that because
Right.
why wouldn't I, And somewhere around, I want to say like 2008, 2009, I got divorced. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I'm going to do these things that kind of like make me enjoy life. And so one of those things was to start my own publishing company because that's how dumb I was. I famously have a wisdom of 6. And for those of you who are like, oh, yeah, starting your own publishing company, that sounds like a great idea. No, it's a terrible idea. Be a freelance writer first. you know so
Noted.
I literally started like just by scratching my nails on the chalkboard, um but 16 years later, I'm credited with over 100 titles. I've got a bunch of platinum and gold bestsellers. I've outsold the Dungeon Master Guide on Amazon before. So like I had to put in a
It did something.
ton of time and effort, but I'm very happy with where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
About 3.5 years ago, I left a job in licensing and video game design to do this, and so I couldn't be happier, right? But is it more work? Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I do like the idea. So one of the cool things about that though is that you've taken some of those skill sets that you learned beforehand and you're able to implement it here. Because I'm guaranteeing game design, it's very similar when it comes to designing modules and things like
Mm,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So for people interested in this idea of either publishing or writing as a contract, a freelance writer,
Yep.
um, what is one thing that you were able to take from the game design industry that you were able to bring to the table?
Oh, interesting. Well, hmm. Like if you're looking at it, a lot of it is the user experience. Okay.
Okay.
And you as a player, you're looking for certain things that you don't even necessarily know that you're looking for them in a
Hmm.
game, right? And when they happen, you're like, ah, this game was the shit, I had so much fun. But you don't necessarily think about why, right? You can't
Right.
necessarily put your finger on why. And so for me, it's all about what I call the 3 F's: fun, flavor, and feel, right? That's what I do when I design RPGs. It's different in the video game because you're looking for, all those weird sensory things that are going off to reward you for doing the right thing, right?
Right.
But
Right.
sometimes video or RPGs and tabletop games have the same scenario, right? You
Right.
might have a mechanical payoff for taking a particular action, which the game designer snuck in there to force the players to play in a certain way. Now, let me give you a great example about this. As I was initially reading the Shadow Dark book, I was like, D4 hit points for a rogue? What are you on crack? And I was just like, this, you got to be kidding me. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And then I read the book in its totality, right? And I started to understand why some of these design choices were made. The rogue in that game has a D4 because they want you to play safe. They want you to be careful. They want you to use your stealth. right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of those like carrot and stick mechanisms that force the player to play in a certain pattern.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you said the three F's, right?
Yep, fun, flavor, and feel.
Feel.
That's my personal creed when it comes to game design. And so I honestly, I couldn't care less if a mechanic was powerful or whatever, right? You might
Yeah.
even say, "Wow, that's too powerful." But if it hits those three Fs, it's great because the player walks away going, "That was amazing. I had a wonderful time."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know you've had a little bit of a taste of my game system, but all that stuff is truly baked in. So
Yeah. No, I can see that. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think we're gonna kind of dive into that between the monsters and the happy hour for sure, because we're
Absolutely.
curious on some of that stuff. Jacob, before I continue my badgering of questions, do you have anything?
Well, the thing that I've been thinking since we've started is when I was kind of like trying to like look at your media and everything and
Mhm.
try and like get some questions. I kept having Outgunned pop up, and I was like, James has told me about this a lot, and I was like, oh my god, this is who we're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm famously known now for also running Outgunned, and for those of you who don't know, Outgunned is a really amazing indie RPG. It's an action kind of heroic, over the top 80s action RPG. That's probably the best way I could describe it. But ironically, it has next to no mechanics to it. Like, it is incredibly simple, and it's just fast, lightweight, fun game. And normally I gravitate to games that have mechanics that are satisfying, right? But oddly enough, this game really, really works. And it really allows the game master to tell a super fun story. So I'm actually running the G.I. Joe cartoon with Outgunned. And I know that there's a G.I. Joe RPG. It's probably right there on my bookshelf, but I won't use it to play the game. I use Outgunned. It's that much better.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what, because you say it's very rules light, like
It is.
what are the main like focuses for the game then?
Sure. You want me to teach you the game in 2 minutes? I'm dead serious.
Sure, why not?
So the game focuses. The players have up to three dots in an attribute and up to 3 dots in a skill. That's the number of d6s you roll.
Okay.
You're looking for pairs, triples, quadruples. That's basically the game in a nutshell. And so I can, as the game master, I can say, hey, the difficulty is a basic and you just need, a pair. Or I can say it's a critical, you need 3 of a kind, right? Everybody shakes up their dice, they roll, they do the thing. But like, it's got some really great mechanics where you as the players can share your successes with other players. And this is how it lends itself to action. So for instance, in some of our games, you might be hanging from a helicopter, you and your buddy, like you, Jacob, you and James are hanging from a helicopter, right? And I make you guys roll your dice. Jacob gets 2 pair, James gets nothing. So James's hand slips, he's falling in, to the ground, but you have 2 pair, so you're going to spend one of your successes to grab his arm as he falls. And right? It's stuff like that. Or maybe you push someone out of the way so that they don't get shot by bullets, etc., etc. The other big win of that game is you don't keep track of the bad guy's hit points like you do in D&D and other RPGs. You have one pool of hit points for the scene, and that's all you have to track as the game master.
Oh.
It is really, really slick.
So if you've got just, the Cobras are just shooting left and right, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yep.
And then they run away if...
Yep. And the players roll all the defenses and stuff too. So, instead of me attacking you and you having a defense or whatever, you're just rolling to see if you get the hell out of the way, right? And the game master just interprets the results, and you push the story forward.
I've seen a lot of games like that lately, and I really like those better than you as a game master trying to come up with a DC. I just think it seems so much easier to be like, you're working against yourself, not
It is,
anything
and
else.
it's probably the easiest game to run I have ever played. Um, and you can pull so much crazy stuff off. The players love it because they can get amazing successes and like have their characters do just absolutely insane things, right?
Yeah.
And they should. Like any Schwarzenegger movie, Aliens,
Yeah.
and I suppose that's the other thing is they have all these wonderful expansions that are just like, a handful of pages, but they tell you how to run Star Wars or Aliens
Yeah.
or Stranger Things, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a nice universal game system that you can apply to anything.
That's cool.
I'll get you
Yeah.
in one of my G.I. Joe games.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
For real, though.
For real though. Yeah, he promised me a
For
Gary
real.
Con and then
Yeah.
just flaked on me. It's all right. That's okay though, because I did get to try his Heretic game out, which was a lot of fun. Which does also kind of give that same feel of the idea that it's kind of over the top. Your Heretic kind of felt more like an over the top Diablo game, but it was still over the top. It was awesome.
Right.
You do some crazy shit.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that, or are we going to talk about monsters?
We've got a couple minutes before the dragon rise, so we can talk about Heretic a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to it.
Okay. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. My personal philosophy on game design is just 100% baked into this RPG because I like high stakes, high action adventure, right?
Mhm.
I never ever want players to go, okay, it's 4:30 p.m. We've kicked down 6 doors. I know we can kick down a 7th one. We're absolutely going to get a perfect challenge rating encounter in this next room. No.
No.
No. You should be terrified 24/7, right? And
That's why I play Shadow Dark.
Yeah, well, and it's very different from Shadow Dark
It
too,
is.
because
It is very different.
the rules are fairly simple to figure out, but you as a player, you even feel pretty heroic sometimes, but not all the time.
Mhm.
It's a game where we kind of like slay the sacred cows of Dungeons and Dragons and a lot of modern RPGs, to be honest,
Yeah.
and just push it forward in new ways, right? So there's a lot of like desperate gambles for forbidden magic and hard-won survival, right? I love risk and reward in RPGs. So low-level characters can be risky to try and be heroic. Higher level characters can be risky to try and like pull off amazing successes, and if it works, awesome, and you as a player feel amazing because you did something right. But when it doesn't work, shit goes south quick. So yeah,
if you think about it on like the wave, we've got D&D, which is kind of like this wave here, and then Heretic is this like nice roller coaster that does this thing.
Yeah, and I do that on purpose because
Yeah.
I want you, the player, scared.
Mhm.
Right? I want you, the player, invested. I want you to feel the adrenaline, right? And so, like when I design games and mechanics and stuff, I do that stuff on purpose because I really want the player engaged. And this is one of those games where even when it's not your turn, you're still paying attention, right? You still have to make defense checks. You still have to be engaged. You're probably making monster attack rolls against your friends at the table too, right? So my goal is to never see a cell phone around the table during a game of Heretic. And you should still have such an amazing time.
That so badly too. The idea to make your other players roll for monsters is a genius idea.
Yeah, and I'm not the first person to ever think of that. Trust me, there's been lots of games that
but it worked so much nicer because it's like, oh no, you roll the dice.
Yeah.
Well, you know why? It's because he wanted you to feel the flavor for the fun.
Yep.
Not only that, like then you aren't the one getting blamed. That makes life a lot easier too.
I am a benevolent oracle. I don't. It's not me. It's your friends. They're the ones that rolled that.
You're kind of like the Watcher from Marvel. You're like, I'm just watching this. I'm not helping. I'm just watching.
That's exactly right.
And I gotta ask you about this because I used that tool not last week, the week before. I ran my largest game of Dungeons and Dragons I've ever ran before in my life. It was crazy. 15 people.
Woo.
it was our we were up at the Renaissance Fair, and our improv comedy crew that I was with, we all went back to the Airbnb, and somebody was like, "Hey, would you run Dungeons and Dragons for us?" And I was like,
That is a group that
"Absolutely."
absolutely needs to play some D&D.
Yeah, I was like, "Absolutely, let's run it." Well, so that's what we were up there with the Ren Fair for, is that we were doing a D&D based improv skit.
Mhm.
But they'd never played to get like the whole crew has never had a chance to actually like play together, everybody.
Hmm.
And it just kept going. Well, I want to play. Well, I want to play. I want to play. And I was like, okay. I was like, how many people we got? And they're like, and then they're like, well, what's our stats? And I was like, I don't, just roll up a level 3 character. I don't care what like, use the basics. I don't want to.
Sure.
I'm not thinking through this.
No. Not for 15 of you.
No, not for 15 of you. And it even got to the point where I was like, I'm sorry, your names are your names, because I'm not remembering everybody's character name.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I used that ability of like, oh, you roll that dice. No, you roll that dice. No, you roll that dice.
Mhm.
And it kept everybody engaged for almost 3 hours straight. And I was like,
That's
this
exactly
is
right.
genius.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, I stole that from you. So, and I appreciate it. So
It's good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
So what's something new that you're seeing that you're doing in Heretic that isn't currently done in D&D?
Oh, geez. One of the biggest things, and I think I'd say there's 2 really huge things for this system that are completely different than other RPGs. Like the first one is it's action point based.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm going to preface this that it's random action points. Okay, so what that means is, number one, you can never guarantee that, for instance, I'm going to pick on Pathfinder, you can never guarantee that, hey, I can move 30 feet, I'm going to take my 5 attacks, and that guy is going to be toast, right? It just doesn't work that way in Heretic. And what's crazy is a lot of people have trouble wrapping their head around that. They're like, wait a minute, I don't get my turn and get to do the things like I always do. Sometimes you are able to be lucky in combat and you can press the attack because you have a lot of action points. Sometimes war is hell and chaos, right? And now you're on the back foot and you're being forced to defend more, right? And then depending on how many action points you have to make tough choices. Do I want to take extra attacks? Do I want to move? How much defense am I going to leave myself? Because you can only exert so many action points per round, and then you're out, right? And this system doesn't have an armor class, so if you're being attacked by goblins and you run out of action points, you can no longer defend yourself very well, right? It's very realistic in that regard. But it's very different, and a lot of people are like, holy shit, what did I get into?
Well, the mechanic definitely threw you off because everybody's like, oh, I'm used to having a reaction no matter what. And you're like, no, you used all your action points. Right. Or worse, and now mind you, everybody gets some action points from what so you have a base action point and then you have a kind of a modifier that pluses or minuses.
Do you build up action points over time?
So
kind of sort of
from round to round it resets.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can blow them all in a round and be completely defenseless. But that's that risk and reward, right? You maybe that worked out so that you moved up and took multiple attacks and you did slay your enemy, so now you don't need the defense, right? Unless you missed, then that gamble didn't pay off, did it? And that's the kind of gameplay I'm looking for, right?
And I think that's what happened to me. I think I went and I was like, I'm going to hit it 3 times. And like, cool, you missed all 3 times.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The other really, really big exciting thing of this is that it's all skill based. And so every combat skill, saving throw, all that stuff, it's all a skill, right? Even spell casting. And spell casting in this game, you set a DC for yourself when you cast a spell, and that is how powerful and how many effects you get for the spell. And so like a low level caster is probably just casting spells with the base ability. Higher level caster is adding DC to the spell as it's being cast so that he can, gain some extra benefit. Of course, that works great when it works. It doesn't work so great when it fails. Yeah.
Well, and the opposite's true as well. You may have, because I'm sure you know about The Last Unicorn, the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
and
watched
like
it as a kid.
in that you have the wizard Schmindrick, the wizard, and
Mhm.
he tries to cast spells, and they always kind of blow up in his face. But then there's that one time that you can tell like he really brought his A game, and it
Mhm.
just blows it out of the park, and you're like,
Right. That sounds
It-
exactly like how this works.
yeah,
I had an amazing end to my playtests at GaryCon. I had this group show up, and there was a full table, and I was like, "Are you guys all here for the Heretic game?" And they're like, "Yeah, because we heard some other people talking about it, that we had such a good time, so we all had to try it out." Great. They play. They had an amazing time. They were on top of their game. They actually should have succeeded until the very last encounter, and then they got cocky. And one of the players was like, "Okay, I'm going to." I really want to test this system out. I'm gonna really jack up my fireball. We're gonna just blow up this undead owlbear, right? And I'm like, okay, why not? You're like one hit away from winning. Have some fun with it. Throws the dice, 2 1s, okay? Because in this system it's like a d20 plus a die, and
yeah.
2 1s on both your dice. That's a critical failure. And on a spell critical failure, terrible things happen. Okay. And he ended up blowing up himself and all his party members within 30 foot. Like 2 of the party lived and everyone else got smoked. But they beat the owlbear, so that was the end.
So that was
And I was like, well, I guess you guys won.
that's
You'll
when you look
remember
at him
that
and you
one.
go, "You two won."
Yeah. But it was so fun, and everyone at the table was just like, "Oh my god, that was epic," because failure can be okay.
Yeah.
It can be memorable and fun, right? And I think if you know that there's always some risk and you go into it like that, I mean, great. Like you don't play Morkborg and think to yourself, "Hey, I'm gonna
make it.
get rainbows and sunshine today," right?
Yeah.
But it's really the style of the game and what you're getting into. Like D&D 5e. Like my expectation is that I'm a Marvel superhero with, a suit of armor and a sword, and that almost nothing is going to touch me. Right? Like I get knocked down, I get back up again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
My
different
players,
gameplay.
my players know much different.
Good. I'm proud of you. And really, like a good game master can tweak the rules to whatever style and theme of game he wants. But yeah.
Well, and one of our questions that I've noticed on our D20 rolls, usually it happens whenever we get to the end of our shows, but every time somebody gets one and they say, "Hey, what was like a good one when you rolled a 20? Like, what was your best thing?" And people will give us one of those. But the ones that are more memorable is what happened when you rolled a 1?
For sure.
Mhm.
For sure.
Like you have more of those times that everybody will tell you, I really screwed the pooch on this. I really fucked up.
Yeah.
Something like that. Compare to the other one, like, yeah, we did this and I was able to like shoot a beam through the big bad's
100%.
head. It's kind of like,
Look, if you're a writer, and any novelist will tell you that your job as the author is to create challenges for your protagonist, right?
Mhm.
It's your job to put them in terrible situations, and it's how they deal with those situations that's entertaining to the reader. So it's the same way for the player, who is essentially the protagonist of that story, right? In Heretic, if you roll a 1 on your d20, it's not a critical failure. Okay, it's a complication, which is exactly what we were just talking about. When you run a 1 and a 1 on both dice, that's when things get really nasty.
Yeah.
But I've actually made it mechanically quite rare for that to happen.
But it's also mechanically quite rare for them to get a critical too.
Yeah, it's harder. Yeah. Yep. You can still roll a 20 on your d20. That's going to be a critical hit. But your high numbers are a little bit harder to achieve, and your lows are harder to achieve. That's absolutely true. Which I want. I want to be able to rely on skills and abilities in that game. Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. What hell? Actually, you know what? I think I know what time it is.
Uh-oh. I thought he was going to crack open a beer. Disappointed now.
That is not the That was not the right one. Apparently that's broken. Anyway, the monster has arrived. That was
What
actually
monster
really
was it now?
creepy. I don't know. It sounded like a wraith. It was like a wraith or something. That thing was terrifying.
That's good.
They shifted it up on me. It's supposed to be a dragon, but that was not a dragon. Anyways, tonight the monster attacks. So this year we've created the monster attack rule, which means for 30 minutes we talk about a new monster and kind of come up with new and interesting ways to utilize this monster in your gameplay. What monster are we talking about tonight, Brandon?
The Lich, I believe.
The Lich.
That is my favorite monster.
Your favorite monster is the Lich. And what do you like about the Lich?
Oh gosh. Well,
it's like, let me pull up the notes that I wrote about all the things I love
do
about
have
the
notes
Lich.
because there's a lot to talk about with the Lich. There's a lot to unpack. So just for starters, the Lich is just a terrifying adversary, or should be, right? You know, he's got a lot more going on than just hit points and a spear. He's not an orc, he's not a goblin. Lich is all about power, corruption, forbidden knowledge, and these are themes that allow for amazing storytelling. You're mixing undead horror with cold calculation, and if you think about it, the Lich is almost an expression of what your player characters could become if unrestrained evil, right? So every murder hobo that you have in your party, like who's a wizard or even a priest perhaps, they could become this person, right? And that should potentially scare them. What happens if you keep lusting for more and more power? Okay,
Right.
and a good game master could actually show the players, hey, you maybe even you defeated this thing, but now you kind of peeked into its soul a little bit, and you are on that track. So now who's the villain, right? Who's the real monster? But a Lich it's not just about killing the Lich, because they're not dead once you slay them. They have a phylactery. You have to find and destroy its phylactery to destroy the Lich. So killing the Lich in and of itself is just the beginning sometimes of a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Tracking down the phylactery and all of that could be 1 to 2 more story arcs
or an entire campaign.
Yeah.
And then of course the Lich is they're undead and they're incredibly intelligent. So they've got centuries or more, maybe millennia, to plan their schemes. And so when they start making moves, it's not haphazard. It's because it's perfectly timed, right? They should be absolutely terrifying in an adventure. Of course, then they've got minions who probably have crafted dungeons and death traps and all kinds of stuff for them. And a Lich fights like a player character, right? They're not an orc that's just going to stand there and take the hits, right? They're going to use every dirty trick, trap, magic item, spell under the sun. Like, watch what your players do and do that too, right?
They're the terrible creatures that you cast mass healing word and they counterspell it.
Oh, absolutely. But think about it. If you've got nothing but time and money, you're going to be able to make, just a horrific amount of powerful magic items and, a dungeon that should not be just, kick down some doors and beat up some goblins. No,
the Tomb of Acererak is a good example of that, and Acererak kind of being the epitome of what a Lich could have been, right?
Yeah. Did you ever play the original Tomb of Horrors? Okay, yeah. we all have mental scars.
It's like the kids who watched Final Destination in like the 90s, right? Like there are certain things that just you can't forget.
So let's talk about this for a second. You were in the military.
Yeah.
I liken Dungeons and Dragons to the military sometimes.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that shared bond over traumatic experiences. Okay. And so I'm not going to compare being shot at to actually playing a dice game, right? Like it's very different.
Let's not do that.
But there are some parallels, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have this shared experience, and you're scared, and you're dealing with all these consequences together, there's a lot of camaraderie,
Right.
and you build friendships off those shared experiences. And I think that's one of the things that really makes role-playing games so powerful.
Oh yeah. I know I've talked about it a few times. It was kind of those moments that got me back into role-playing games.
Mhm.
Before the Misfits was even a thought, there was 11 of us downrange getting shot at in the desert where crap is just crap.
Yep.
And I never realized, and I think it's what really sparked me, was I never realized how many barriers that this game can just ignore.
Absolutely.
Age, race,
Absolutely.
language.
Yep.
Like, it was crazy.
Sure.
Just terrible ideas of, with the military wanting not to work branch to branch and stuff.
Right.
We had 11 people from 4 different countries in 7 different branches playing. And
wow.
I can tell you, I remember more about the campaign we played for 6 months than I do what we did in the desert.
What we did in the desert. That sounds like a adventure novel or movie right there.
Like,
that sounds like a new RPG.
No, it's not.
That's going to come out by
RPG.
That's going to come out by Total Party Kills.
No,
it's a terrible RPG. What we did in the desert, we ate, we worked out, we worked, we slept, and we played Dungeons and Dragons. That's what we did in the desert.
Yeah, sure. And it's funny because when I was young and first started playing D&D, it was not popular and it was not cool, right? Yeah. And so there was almost like a secret handshake or code that you had to know in order to find other people who played, because people were not wearing t-shirts about Dungeons and Dragons. They were not getting tattoos of D20s and stuff back then. It was just very uncool, and it was like a subculture. And
I mean, it was even that when we were downrange.
Sure, yeah. But once you did find people who shared your hobby, then you became fast friends like immediately, and it didn't matter really who they were, because you had that shared love for this game. And I think that's one of the things that really has made me someone who doesn't see like the race, religion, all that stuff. Like I couldn't care less. Like, we love the same thing, so we're friends, right? And so for me, that's never changed. But I think it's one of definitely the most powerful properties of a game like this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, it was me and one other guy that I deployed with, and we had mentioned, we kind of were doing the dabble feel, because it was like, oh, you like Lord of the Rings, I like Lord of okay, you like this nerd thing, I like this nerd thing. And then apparently we came up to the end of it's like, oh, do you play Dungeons and Dragons? Like, oh, I do. Or I haven't.
I don't know.
While, but...
Do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
So it was
say
just
something. Say something to somebody in Elvish or Dwarven, and then they're like,
yeah,
I understand that language. Like, oh shit. So it was interesting though, because we literally said, well, we're going to run to the local library, which is just a trailer, and we printed 20 character sheets, and we had a bag of dice. We're like, we're just going to start rolling up characters and see what happens.
Sure, great.
And we were just sitting in what would be considered for those that don't know, the MWR is kind of like your hangout area while you're deployed, because you don't really have anywhere else to hang out unless you're hanging out in your room. And rooms aren't great. It's like having a bunk bed and that. Yeah. Anyway, it's where all the TVs were at. It's where you get movies, things like that. You can get DVDs. You can grab them and go to the little spot and watch DVDs. But we were like, no, we're just going to grab a table. We're going to start rolling up character sheets. And within 2 weeks, we had 11 players.
That's amazing.
And it was awesome. And then we played for 6 months. It was great.
I apologize. My cat has decided he absolutely must join the
we don't mind fur babies.
Yes, this
So,
is Gary. He's 17 years old. Yeah, so
oh my goodness.
he gets what he wants.
He gets what he wants. When he's 17 years old, he gets what he wants.
Well, so one thing that I have to become better friends with you, Brian, on is have you ever heard of Dungeon Soup?
No.
So this guy, he's the Chaotic Good Barbarian, is from that.
Okay.
And his first person that he fights is the Lich.
Oh yeah.
And he says and tells him, "Hey buddy, I like my playthings durable, basically. And I'm gonna put you on this spike on my back and cut your legs and your arms off every day so that I still keep a plaything." And
I love that so
terrifying,
much.
but so good.
That is so dark, and I'm
like-
here for it.
I
That's
will
like
I will
Mimir.
send you the link when we're
Please
done.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like Mimir from God of War. Is the head that just hangs on his like hip and just carry it around with him.
Mhm.
So the interesting thing about liches is you don't see large groups of them. You don't see them used in small level campaigns. They're kind of like the big bads that are kind of dictating the storyline. What are unique ways though that you've used a lich? What's that?
The best known lich that we all know from media, Voldemort.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
7 phylacteries.
7 phylacteries in one.
Liches be tripping.
Liches be tripping. So what are some interesting ways you've used a lich?
Oh gosh.
In your games?
So, spoiler alert. The presumed lich that's in my initial heretic game, the intro adventure, he's actually not a lich. He's a Hecuva. If you're familiar, which is a lich-like priest creature. They're super fun, and so I've enjoyed subverting expectations and doing that, but that's kind of a cheat answer. I'm trying to think what the worst lich I've ever used was.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a worse lich, but like, what are some unique ways you've used them? Like we were talking dragons last week, and we were talking about like what are some interesting hordes that might not be just gold, right? Like you have a ancient gold dragon that is actually just a bookkeeper, so he just has a giant library, and that's part of his horde. Yeah. If you take a book, you get eaten. Like it's kind of how it works.
Right.
Like, what are some interesting ways you've used liches that maybe are out of the blue or off kilter from a normal?
So you touch on a lot of things here, but one of the things is like you don't typically get to experience liches, right? Because they are very, very powerful, right? Yeah. And they should be able to challenge a very high level party. And so I think that something fun to do to subvert expectations again would be to create some sort of like either neutral lich or a lawful evil lich who his machinations happen to align with the party, and so he uses the party for some sort of nefarious thing, but still rewards them for their service, right? So you kind of get in bed with evil because you're trying to fight another greater evil,
right?
And I think stuff like that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of have that because I've never beat the game, but like at least at the beginning of the game, Withers from Baldur's Gate 3,
right?
He's kind of this neutral lich, right? Like he's there, he's just kind of chilling.
Right.
I don't know if maybe in chapters 3 or 4 it changes, but I have never gotten that far. So I find too many other games.
I almost needed some new shorts when he started jumping up, because like I was like, we're low level. This is not gonna be good.
Yeah, this guy just goes. You're like, no,
and
we're gonna die.
It was very well done to put the scare in the player. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think specifically for those of us that know what a lich normally can do, and it's like, oh no, this thing is going to, eat my soul and spit me out, and then you kind of wonder, like, did I just step into like a Dark Souls game? It's like, am I just not supposed to go near this thing? Like, what should I have done? Yeah. And then he's just kind of there. He's not really doing his thing. He's kind of just there to help and kind of wander. But
Well, and I think it's funny how innately a lot of people move towards a lich automatically being evil
Hmm.
when you kind of almost have like that Captain Hook-ness. Like if you knew where they were coming from, there may be a different thing.
Absolutely.
And then in like folklores and myths and stuff, the one that comes to mind is Koshki the Deathless, which is like a Russian one.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
I mean, his whole little thing of uh, they don't consider it a phylactery, but like his phylactery, I actually pulled it up so that we would know what it is. He hides his soul inside of a needle, within an egg, inside of a duck, inside of a hare, inside of a chest on an island.
Wow.
And you have to go and figure out how to get each one broken through to get to the needle to defeat his soul. And he's one of those, even if you get to the needle, you get to his soul and you break it, at some point he's still coming back.
Hmm.
And
No,
he
that
is
sounds amazing.
he's this big neutral character that sometimes he's kind of like Loki, he is a bad guy, sometimes he's a good guy. All just depends on what anti-hero flavor you throw on him.
What book did you pull him out of?
Koshki?
Yeah.
He is just a Russian folklore.
Okay, neat.
I mean, there are definitely some interesting folklore out there that you can play around
yeah.
and twist.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. Has anybody played, and I know this is a weird thing to even ask, but like, has anybody tried playing a good lich?
I
All the
don't.
time.
Is that even a thing? Like, I'm trying to think of, just based on the idea of what a lich is.
I'm pretty sure that I've seen it rumored in old AD&D lore, but I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever seen them in an adventure. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, what a great opportunity, though, right? Like, yeah.
Like, what would that look like, though? I guess I'm trying to like peer in my own brain on it. Like, okay, but they're heavy for power, but like, how can we do this in a good way?
I don't think we would really have those in a good way. I mean, you could write the lore for it. I would say that. But I think how we usually have that portrayed is, and if we go off of the coin of good and bad, that some of these people, if they push just enough, they would be in Elminster.
Right.
Versus on the opposite side, they push so much that they're willing, that their body starts to decay, different things happen, that now they have this ugly outward appearance.
I feel like there was something called the Deathless in second edition that was that. And I'm thinking also possibly there was a psionic lich in Dark Sun, which is a disgusting thought. So yeah, there's some
Dark Sun's got some messed up.
I love Dark Sun so much.
So
That'll be a topic for another time.
Somebody in the audience just said there are a couple of high power liches in Erevan's Guide to Death and Beyond that were researchers that lived forever to forever learn.
See, and that's a great opportunity for a lich. Yeah,
archaeologists, like,
especially. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And let me ask you this: how do you feel about like Draco liches?
Do I love liches? Do I love undead dragons? Yes.
Yes.
Sign me up.
Yes,
I love
you
them so
all.
much. Yes. In fact, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a product that I'm working on for Morkborg that actually has something along those lines.
Yeah. Morkborg's on my top list of more games.
I know mine's like hiding back there.
Yeah. But no, we definitely so let's kind of twist this around a little bit. We've got a few more minutes to talk about the lich. What are other unique settings that you could put a lich in that would not be traditional? So let's think of things like, for instance, G.I. Joe. Could you put a lich in this?
Oh, of course you can.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the beauties of G.I. Joe, because it's like it's got some quasi science fantasy to it. You know, it's got some like quasi mysticism and stuff. Is Serpentor technically a lich? Like, technically he's alive, but he was, resurrected through spliced DNA. You know, so there. I think anytime you extend your life unnaturally, you could technically be a lich.
So, I mean, technically, if that's the case, and we're thinking of it that way, you could almost put Ra's al Ghul from Batman as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In it.
What about an AI, like a transferred intelligence,
Just
where
bounces.
you put your brain into a computer, and that's how you extend your life? You're not malevolent and evil necessarily, but
Right.
you're bordering that lichdom.
You're like
Digitally.
a cyber lich.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah, I like
the oh my goodness, there's an entire game designed around or TTRPG designed around that. I can't think what it's called off the top of my head. It's not Mothership. What's the other one? Because it has the
like the
computer.
Starfinder.
No. It's an AI that pretty much controls everything. Friend computer is what it's called. We played it at Page, and my buddy's not in the channel right now, so he's not gonna be able to be on there to help me with this. But it was late. We were playing it, and you pretty much everybody is turned into clones.
Mm-hmm.
So if you die, your next clone would show up, and they just appear, and you start over again and whatnot.
Not paranoia.
That's it.
It was a paranoia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but the idea of, like you said, you have that computer that just kind of continues and continues and continues,
right,
in a never-ending cycle.
But we have all these real life kind of inspirations. You have mummies in even like the high Andes mountains that because it's such a dry climate, and they were in the back of a cave or something, and the flesh is still there. That could easily have been the inspiration for some of these things. And sometimes those bodies are revered, right? Or were revered at the time for hundreds of years because they were someone important. And although the soul is gone, the body is still there. And
right.
That could lead to some really interesting stories too, right?
Absolutely.
Or what about you take one of those bodies, you sacrifice a person, and their soul now inhabits that body. Right? I'm gonna have to pen that one down. I like that. Juicy.
Well, and this also makes me think, stick with me here, because we got to get into religion just a little bit.
Okay, sure.
But this makes me think about Vecna, where when you get the eye and it calls to the hand, or you get the hand and it calls to the eye, and then you do that and you start slowly becoming like a vessel of Vecna.
Absolutely.
Well, in most Catholic churches, they actually have a part of a saint that's in it.
Right.
And to ever think if somebody unearthed one of those and somehow went through a ritual for that to come back, and then all hell breaks loose. You're like, liches everywhere.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring that topic up. I mean, because we were not going to talk religion.
But saints, that's a great parallel.
But saints is a great parallel. Absolutely. Because it makes the idea that you found something that is connecting to that ever ending, and then it just slowly growing into it, right? But that could bring up to the idea that there is a possible way to make a good.
Absolutely. If you can make an evil one, you can make a good one, I'm sure.
Yeah. Or the other crazy thing, especially because right before we started the show, we were talking about you doing martial arts, James.
Yeah.
Is the ritual that the Buddhists go through where they drink the bark tea and they start withering away to the last thing where they're meditating in the box that gets put underground, and they have to ring the bell every like hour or so.
Right.
And like going through that almost bodily mummification period. I mean, what if somebody did that and they got to the extent where they did get this weird enlightenment of now becoming a lich?
Right.
Of course, in that sense, I guess it would really be a good lich, because have you ever met a bad Buddhist guy?
I mean, I haven't met many Buddhists, so I can't tell you. I'm guessing just on attrition, no. So
yeah, based on what I've read, probably not. No.
Yeah.
No, and it's funny because I've always been drawn more to villains in games and movies, just because I thought that they look cooler, they had better stories, and that's not true in everything because Hollywood, but
Hollywood.
Darth Vader, man, there's something to that character that is just awe-inspiring,
Yeah.
right? The first time you saw him, you're like,
He's a lich. No.
yeah, if only, yeah.
Darth Sidious could be, though. I mean, we
well,
see how long he's been around.
And the other thing that I really love, especially now as an adult, because now I see it all the time, is we followed the heroes when we were kids because we wanted good to fight over evil.
Yeah.
But as an adult, we now understand why the villain was considered the villain.
Right.
Because some of those are choices that as an adult we would possibly have to make.
Well, look, he had to play a lot of 4th edition D&D, and then he snapped. I get it.
Yeah.
He had to play a lot of 4th edition D&D.
Sorry. There's a lot of great people that...
I mean, I played 4th edition.
Yeah, well, we know where you're heading.
You're like, you've already snapped, okay?
Don't get me... I've got another person in the channel that says, don't get me started on the psychology of Star Wars. I think, though, it's really interesting because, like you said, we like to, as adults, understand where the villain's coming from.
Absolutely.
Nowadays. And I think
it's so much more meaningful if you do.
Yeah, and in a game, I think that's one of the best things a game master can do is to make you as a player question killing something.
Yeah.
Or removing it from
Absolutely.
anything.
Like Brian said earlier about when you know how to be a really good writer, it's taking those things and flipping them on their head.
Mm-hmm.
What if Captain Hook was the good guy the whole time we knew and Peter Pan was evil?
Well, that's how the book is. Just a heads up.
Yeah.
Doing that one for you. Spoiler alert.
Everybody in the chat's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I have
Spoiler
to know.
alert. Disney did this to it, so just a heads up.
No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah. And what cool opportunities to find those parallels too. And Disney did fine because they made it so that they could do that. But to see somebody come in who has understood something like, for instance, Captain Hook and Peter Pan, and then reading the book and understanding that, yeah, Captain Hook was still not a great character,
right? But
your hero in Disney was definitely not a great character.
The best example I can say probably for all of this is look at George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, right?
Nobody's great.
All 7 seasons.
Nobody's great.
But no, there's this, every single evil character in there has real motivations.
Yeah.
And even some of them who are just heinously evil, you actually begin to feel for and root for, and they complete their story arc and kind of become someone that you don't hate anymore, right? Then there's other ones like Cersei, who's just awful in almost every way, and yet she has redeeming qualities about her that you totally understand, right? She would do anything for her children.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like understand how maybe she got led down some of these paths. That's great writing.
Yeah. One character who doesn't do that,
and then we have the Lich.
Character's terrible.
We have the Lich that's in it. We have the Lich that's in it, which is the White Walkers. I mean,
exactly, absolutely, yeah.
And you look at how that one designed is it's more of a purging effect is what you see happening there. The regain, and I think it's the other thing you can do, similar to a neutral Lich would be similar to like somebody who's heavily into nature. Like you could see the person who's taking back. For instance, I know it's a really weird thing to say, but like, let's think of Dr. Seuss with the Lorax. The Lorax could definitely be a Lich.
Mm-hmm.
That thing comes out of nowhere. He's always around. He speaks for the trees. The trees don't talk. So it's like, come on.
Now I want to write up a neutral Lich. That's interesting. Like a
druidic Lich.
A druidic Lich.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. He looks like the tree on the Iron Maiden Fear of the Dark album.
Oh. That's a Shadow Dark Lich right there.
Yeah.
Because you got to use that kind of artwork in order to do that. So,
delicious.
Oh yeah, and then you could flavor the beginning of that story. Hey, don't cut this tree down. And then something happens where they're like, "We need wood. It's cold out. Let's cut this tree down." Lorax Lich comes out.
Lorax Lich
we don't have any wood. We already burned down the inn.
We've already burned down.
Exactly.
Tell me that hasn't happened to you from a player. I swear to God, that's like the one thing I can almost always count on that my players are going to burn down the inn. Why? We just know there's someone evil in it. Okay.
Sure. Sure. And the one day you realize that there was actually evil in it. You're like, and the inn was the reason that there was no evil in the world, because it was the protector of the world.
No, that's when they find out that they were the evil in the world, because they burned the inn down.
Right? Are we the bad guys?
That's what I
love that video so much.
I think those are the greatest moments, though, or one of the greatest moments when you're playing a game, though, and the player looks at you and goes, "Uh-oh, like, are we the bad? Like, are we doing the wrong in this?"
Yeah.
And that definitely gets them thinking in a way that you're not expecting as a game master.
We've talked about part of this before with how, like, in this sense with the Lich, of how, what if they are a good character, and because of the actual name of the beast, that characters go, this guy has to be evil,
right?
And then you're like, you go, we'll start looking around, like, they had a flower garden, they were feeding the townspeople. You were the one that walked in here, and because somebody else told you there was a Lich in town, that you were like, kill him, let's get him.
Now, on the other hand, a lot of heinously evil people in the real world do good things to try to gain favor with the local population and control them. Like some of the big drug lords, the people loved them because they handed out cash and, did all kinds of good stuff. Lots of heinously evil things.
Ice cream on Sunday.
Yeah. Which could be another way, you could play a Lich. Like, instead of them being forced to give up their life, or to they're willingly doing it because it goes down to the weird things like, you have to give up your firstborn, that kind of stuff, and it gets really creepy. But at the same time, that's the way that the Lich is fed, and it's fed in a way that you don't really
even have two Liches, and they're stuck in between that. One of us tells a lie and one of us tells the truth. Now you have to figure out who's the good Lich, who's the bad Lich.
See, now I like that story. Well, I mean, two competing Liches. That's fun. Yeah.
Writing this down.
How many Lich stories are we making today? Jeez.
I mean, this is the really cool thing we've done. And we're only doing this for a half hour, but like we come up with so many interesting ideas because there's so many people bouncing those ideas around.
Right.
But we're gonna
turn hallucinations.
Right. We're gonna turn up the volume a little bit as
I have one more question before this.
Rowdy.
Is Freddy a Lich? I just have to ask this.
Ooh, that's a good question. He's definitely got psychic powers.
A psionic Lich.
Yeah, he might be a psionic Lich. That's
which is
terrifying.
now a thing, which is terrifying.
Right?
Yeah. Well, if you can hear the tavern has gotten a little rowdy, which means it's happy hour. Which just gives you an opportunity as people in the chat to ask any questions you want. It can be about Liches, it can be about game mastering, it can be about player ideas. It can be what is Brandon's favorite color.
It is Brian.
Brian, why do I have Brandon up there then? I don't know. Why didn't you tell me this early?
Because I wanted to wait till the very end just to make you scream.
I just want to say that in our chat it has that, and then I sent it to you because I heard you say it again, and I was like, you're gonna have like 3 messages from both of us, like, hey.
Oh, I do see it now. Yeah, I'm terrible.
All good.
I'm terrible.
No, it's fine.
It's been a long week.
Brandon is secretly Brian's Lich form. Okay,
that's right.
What we've come to find out.
I've been staring at it all night too, because on the poster it says Brian Berg right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Is Brandon the good one or the evil one? That is the question.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
He goes by many names.
What would the opposite company be? If yours is Total Party Kill, what is his called?
Total Party Killer.
I
don't know.
I'll have to think about that. Yeah. Fluffy Bunnies and Rainbows Incorporated. I don't know.
Yeah. For one day only.
For one day only, you get this. Otherwise, no.
Well, let's see. I've got some other hobbies too. If you guys want to talk, music, I love. Like 80s metal,
Okay.
70s classic rock, 90s industrial. That's the whole era is my jam.
What's
Do you
a song you have used in order to write a book?
Oh man. Oh, interesting. So,
Or
you
that
ever
you've used
listen
as
to
inspiration?
David Bowie's Black Star album?
Yeah.
That is a wild trip of an album. Especially like the kind of like the 2 or 3 like really main songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow. You want to do like a fucked up space, thing. That's fantastic. I actually was writing a Starfinder adventure for a minute,
Yeah.
and I passed it off to a freelancer, and he actually, because I was like, "You're gonna like this. This is exactly for you," and he had no idea who David Bowie was. I was like, "Okay."
What?
Find new freelancer. Click.
Yep.
So I love that aspect though, because it's funny whenever me and James talk about when I ghostwrite for Dress to Quest sometimes,
Mhm.
it'll be like, how do you feel like this person would be? And I'll send them like a song and I'll be like,
Mhm.
this is their theme song. Go with that.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yep.
Yep. And then I got to go listen to the theme song. Some of them I
Mhm.
don't know. Yeah, no. Some of the stuff he's like this character, and I was like, I've not watched this series yet. Shit. Like, let me go find a YouTube video. It's like top 10 clips from this series. So okay, got it. Now I understand who this character is.
Now Steve even sent me a. It was Avenged Sevenfold Heretic, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. What are some other inspirations you've used in the past to come up with some of your stuff?
I actually use a lot of real world stuff.
Okay.
And I twist it heavily, because I think the worst evils that you can come up with have already been done, and we are the monsters, right? Look through history, look through modern politics. You're going to find all the darkness that you need. It's all out in the open too, and like that stuff. If you frame it right and you make it work contextually in a fantasy world, it's solid gold. Yeah. So like when I finally get around to releasing a campaign setting, you're in trouble. Like, if you think of what I'm doing with Heretic, imagine what I write for a campaign setting, right?
Yeah,
I haven't released it because I was sure that I would be canceled on site, because it's got a lot of tough themes in it, right? And I don't think that we as people can just go, oh, that's got a bad thing in it, that guy has to go, because you should feel awful about that thing, right? Like, that's kind of the point. And if it generates like a discussion about how that thing is bad, that's also good, right? Like, yeah. So,
yeah, I think there's a place for it, and there's a place for everything, right? But I do understand it where it seems like there's two different styles of Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop gaming nowadays.
Sure, at least.
Yeah, where you have I want to feel happy, I want to feel good, and I want to feel like things are going better. But then you have other people who are the exact opposite, where they're like, no, I want to experience these issues and understand how, in a safe location, I can defeat this. Right.
But think about it for a moment. If you were to look at what is playing in the movie theater right now, there's probably a rom-com, there's probably a psychological thriller, there's probably a heroic action movie, there's probably a horror movie.
Yeah.
People have different tastes, right? And none of those things are wrong. You know what I mean? They just might not be for me.
Can I add to that? Because
Please.
I love that you said that. So probably about a month ago, I watched what is the beginning of it? I think it's like Real Monster, Ed Gein.
Okay. Ooh.
And they talked about Hancock when he first came out with Psycho.
Mm.
And everybody, you get to see it. They're sitting there watching, and everybody runs out and they start throwing up.
Yeah.
Worst thing you've ever seen.
Right.
Yet most of us have seen that, and it's kind of,
yeah.
Hey, that's not that bad, you know.
Yeah.
So like,
been desensitized.
We've slowly been desensitized and turning the amp up to, you know, like what's the next thing? What's the next gruesome thing that's going to make me feel sick to my stomach? So
I mean, we've turned that to 12, 13. People are still barely
trying to twist
it.
They're like,
yeah, like think about the new, or not even the newer ones. I don't think I've watched anything past 3, but like the Saw movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What twisted mindset did you have to live in order to come up with some of these cockamamie ideas?
In fairness, I would love to write an adventure where you wake up in the dungeon in traps and you have to solve all these traps to get through it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that would be an amazingly fun adventure.
It would, but
I don't know what that says about my psyche, but...
And do we do this in Shadow Dark? Now I know why I only have a 4 HP.
Yeah. Ooh.
How do I play it safe?
You don't. But no, I agree. I think that's true. Where you know, and I think it's every version of it. We no longer have a baseline. It's past that baseline.
Yeah.
Because we go either drastic one direction or drastic the other, but that middle ground is kind of dead at this point.
Sure. Well, because the potency of feelings are probably on those far spectrums, right? Whereas if you did something that was middling, then it was kind of mediocre, and people are just like, you know, you get more feels one way or the other,
which is one of your Fs.
Yeah,
feels.
For sure.
So
feels. That's how you know the flavor.
I do have a 4th F.
I can think of another F, but that's not appropriate on any channel.
Can hear it here. It's 4. I mean, come on.
That's right.
4.
Yeah, like I said, flavor. Feel the flavor for fun. That's what it for. Yeah, that's the 4th F.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, that must be it.
That must be it.
But no, I use that for everything because it to me it really helps you design what's best, you know.
Yeah. So what are some, if we dive in a little deeper to that, what are some of the things that you put into every campaign or every game that you run that is kind of like your core staples?
You mean rules? Do you mean
rules? Specifics of like, I have, you know, I put 3 NPCs, or I put, you know, 4 locations. Like, what are some things that kind of break your skeleton looks like?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure that I have a guaranteed formula, because the minute you have a formula, you're formulaic, right?
Right.
And someone out there is like, oh, that's ridiculous. But I think that's true. So anybody who tells you that the 5-room dungeon is the only way to do a dungeon is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? But also I'm wrong for telling you that they're wrong, right? It all comes down to your personal taste. But to answer your question, everything that I do when I run games is I really want to challenge the players, and I want them to earn victories. Okay, I design things in such a way that if you get through my encounters, it leaves some sort of scar. You either remember the encounter, or you took enough damage, lost enough, whatever, you know, lost some hit dice, you know, some resources. It was memorable in some way or the other, right? I never want a game to go and where you're like, oh yeah, what did we do? We cleaned out that dungeon, but what did we even fight? What, you know, like, to me, if you get into a scenario like that where you're just throwing out like gimme encounters, well, the players aren't having fun, you know. They're casting their spells, they're doing their thing, but they're not having fun.
Right.
And so anything that you can do as the game master to mess with the players mentally, to challenge them physically, to scare the player, those are all like really, really solid things that make those adventures memorable. And I write obviously very dark, very challenging stuff, hence total party kill games, right? But I'm not out to kill people's characters. I just want the players to work together. I want them to use tactics. I want them to have a little bit of fear, and that makes the victories that much more impressive.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, as we're coming close to the ending of the night, Jacob, do you have any other questions?
Not currently.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure we could go like another half an hour, but
We probably could.
I don't want to do that.
The audience, do you have any questions? If I've missed one, make sure you put that back in the chat so we can catch that. And while we're waiting, what is something that is if you can share, rather, what is the next step for Total Party Kill games?
Sure.
We got a new project coming out soon.
I do. So I have a few things. So I've been getting to our next book, the Librum of Lost Spells. That's being printed right now, and that's a 250-ish page hardcover book. It's like Lost and Forbidden Magic, plus Arcane Monstrosities for 5e. Ooh. And then I've had some clamoring from people to have me turn that into a Shadow Dark product as well. If you didn't know, I write a lot of amazing Shadow Dark character classes, and those are available on my website, which is totalpartykill.games. I'm currently building like a really nice pop culture comic convention in Iowa called Conquest. We actually even have 2 of the original voice actors from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Oh, wow.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that's also taking up a ton of my time. I'm writing.
When is this?
That is July 17th through 19th, I believe.
Yeah. And where is it?
Waterloo, Iowa.
Okay.
Yep. Working on 2 RPGs. One is Heretic, which we kind of touched on, but the other one is a very rules light game. It's called A Saga of Sorcery and Steel. And I'm doing that with Jim Pinto, who's the author of World's Largest Dungeon. And he wrote some stuff for Legend of the Five Rings.
Okay.
It's kind of a tribute to AD&D, but with some different rules. Yeah, just leave that one at that.
Leave that one at that. Awesome. So as you're checking those things out, make sure you go to his website or his blink.me to get all of the links. And then, for those that don't know, what's the book you're famous for?
That's a good question. So the biggest project we've ever done was the Book of Monstrous Might, and that is like 300 and some pages of new monster abilities that you can drag and drop onto the existing monsters, new monstrous playable races, new monsters themselves. All my monsters come with a small treasure table right there on the page, and tactics on how to best run them, so that you can actually kind of optimize your monster encounters, make them more challenging and fun. Because it turns out that the challenge rating system in 5e is not 100% perfect.
Huh? Who would have known? Who would have thought?
Yeah. But I don't think it's been perfect.
You mean there's a book that I could have went to instead of making all the crazy ass shit that I had?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and that book that did so well for me that Luke Gygax even wrote the introduction.
Nice.
Love it.
It's super cool. Mm-hmm.
Love that dude. He's cool.
Is that the one that you brought up at the beginning that outsold a lot of the wizard books?
No.
That one's not.
No. Early on in the beginnings of 5e, I wrote 5th edition feats and 5th edition options, which are a couple little splat books just to expand content. And, options was one of those books that was super fun to write. It was just optional rules like the chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but an entire book devoted to them. Yeah.
That's the 5th edition feats one.
5th edition options, I think.
And then on top of it, he's got other cool things like 50 kobold encounters, 50
Oh yeah.
lich encounters,
Oh yeah, yeah.
50 vampire encounters. So if you really enjoyed our conversation on liches, go get your 50 lich encounters over at Drive Through RPG.
The funnest project I've ever worked on. I was coming back from Gen Con, and this was at the height of Cards Against Humanity's popularity. So
nice.
I was like, I should just do my own version, making fun of all the geek related stuff because I've just been inundated with it, right? And so I'm penning a lot of these coming back from Gen Con, and the project was called Geeks versus Harsh Reality. And so that's available print on demand on drive-through too. Quite
Nice.
good if you're a gamer. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a ton of cool Shadow Dark classes up there. There's a bunch of what looks like 5e compatible classes and monsters, all sorts of cool stuff. So
Because I never wanted to go work for Wizards and make a small salary in a very expensive place and have no job security. So I've literally just from the beginning been doing my own thing and just enjoyed it. It took a long time to become truly profitable, but now this is my full-time job. So
and there's very few people that can say that.
I would agree. Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. So as we're wrapping up, and we'll call this last call tonight, is there anything else you want to tell the audience, Brian? Since I got your name right for the end.
First, I'd like to tell the audience that my name is actually Brian. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that no matter who you listen to, no matter who you watch, the right way to play any role-playing game is the way that you want to play it. There's a ton of celebrities out there who are going to tell you that their way is the best way, and honestly, it's all BS. There's good ideas, there certainly is bad ideas, but the one that makes you happy, the one that lets you play the game and have fun with your friends, that's really all that matters. And I get people all the time who are like afraid to start playing D&D because they're intimidated by making mistakes. They've watched Critical Role, they see this elaborate production, and they're terrified of not being able to be Matt Mercer. No one's Matt Mercer but Matt Mercer, right? Don't be afraid. Jump in, make mistakes, have fun. That's all that matters.
And if it's with your friends, it's not going to matter.
Absolutely.
So, well, thanks again for coming to hang out with us here at the Tavern tonight. I hope you had a lot of fun. We had some fun talking about liches.
What's his name again?
All right, we can stop the that. Maybe there's more than water in this cup. I don't know.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the last call. Raise your glasses high as we sign off here on Tavern Talks. Stick around real quick as we go raid some friends over on another channel. And we're going to do some raids. Keep an eye on the social medias. We didn't do this at the end of the show, which is fine. Keep an eye on social media as our shows all launch again starting on Sunday. So we'll have games running starting Sunday, Monday, and then back here on Wednesday. So
was there a vicious rumor that I may come back in the future and run some games for you guys?
There is a vicious rumor that could be a possibility here in the near future. So keep an eye out.